So there's James's meal. It's the ruby red mushroom soup, and that, and that. And I'm having this wonderful salad. We're going to talk about, it's probably just my thyroid. Anita Renfroe, we ended on that yesterday. And we're going to talk for the fight for Yemen. Kind of a weird mix, eh? But that's just how it goes.
That's kind of the way life is.
Yep. You never know what you're going to get. So, I'll just put a little hat on my camera because it's the sun. Well, this is my outfit for today. Not very fancy. Just we were out hiking just before and whatever. So I'm gonna look forward to eating my salad. We both have wonderful things to eat today. So yeah. So talk about Anita Renfroe because we talked about the music and you know, the entertainment side of it yesterday on our dinner, but we didn't get around to the educational stuff. So, and I mean, there was comedy with that too, right? She really delivered the stuff well. So, top of the stack. We found it very interesting. But we have something to say about the hypothyroidism and, well, the thyroid stuff in general. So, she was talking about hypothyroidism, and she was saying, and it's true that if you have hypothyroidism, it's you really have to watch things like the cruciferous vegetables. But if you don't have hypothyroidism, like it's listening to her talk about the hypothyroidism and the cruciferous vegetables, in particular with regard to the hypothyroidism, one would think that, oh geez, maybe it's not healthy for me to eat my broccoli and cabbage and
despite
kale
what
and
your
whatever.
parents might have said.
Yeah, but those things are very healthy for
especially if you got cancer. I mean, oftentimes you'll have cancer and not know it.
Yeah.
Help you avoid it.
But they're very healthy anyway. So it's not like if you have hypothyroidism, yeah, you're going. I'll explain this. So I talked to one of my best friends, Google's AI, about this, and hypothyroidism diet, selenium rich, so Brazil nuts, fish, chicken, kelp, all these things help the thyroid. Iodine, like seafood, eggs, dairy, kelp, and the nori, the sea vegetables. Whole fresh foods, vegetables from whole grains, vegetables, fruit, and whole grains. My writing is really messy. Limit soy and cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, kale, in large amounts. So can you pull back that curtain, James? Thanks. I don't know what we're gonna do to keep that sucker from coming in, because there's a bit of a breeze today, which is beautiful, but the curtain wants to come in, and I don't have another chair to put there right now. So, and also limit processed foods and sugar. I mean, she was talking very positively about cake. And so, I mean, yeah, you don't want to eat your broccoli and kale and cabbage, and you want to eat the cake. Okay, anyway, I asked about fermenting the cabbage, because James's soup, that's the ruby red mushroom soup today, and just like yesterday, because he liked it very much. Only yesterday I put more avocado in it. Anyway, but today we put cheese in it, so you can see it's melty, stringy. So anyway, okay, I gotta find something for that. So James is going to talk for a minute, and I'm gonna try So here we go. I'm going to get the camera more on James. And James is going to talk about maybe Yemen.
The fight for Yemen.
Sure. Let's get
It's reporterage.
like
And
that.
it's reporterage from the Middle
There
East.
we go.
Or someone whose ancestors came from the Middle East. She didn't have much, if any, of an accent. I don't know where she's working out of.
There we go. Sorry about that, people. Our viewing audience, we're all over the place today. Anyway, I talked about the fermenting cabbage with Google's AI because I make a lot of kraut. Because the ruby red soup, that's made from the burped off juices from my fermentation process of the ruby red kraut. So that has the red cabbage and the beets and regular green cabbage. And it's a beautiful color. And it tastes wonderful. And it has some onions in it too. And so somehow I'm able to eat, maybe because it's not very much onions, but I'm able to eat the onions in the ruby red kraut, so I have been. And I go through a lot. I eat a lot, you can tell. No goiter. I eat a lot of that kraut. But I also eat a lot of nori and some other things. So it's good to try to get a balanced diet, you know. So fermenting cabbage does not heavily reduce overall goitrogens like cooking does. So if you're concerned about your cabbage, kale, and the goitrogen, cook it. But it changes the vegetable's chemical balance by cutting harmful nitriles in half and remains safe to eat in normal condiment portions. Nitriles are often more harmful to the thyroid than goitrogens. Boiling cabbage for 30 minutes destroys 90% of goitrogens. But who likes boiled cabbage? I know it's so bad. Well, cabbage rolls are yummy, right?
I agree.
So, hypothyroidism causes Hashimoto's disease, and that's where the immune system, it's an immune system disease where the body attacks the thyroid gland. Thyroid surgery can cause hypothyroidism. Radiation to treat head and neck, well, it's going to injure your thyroid. Thyroiditis, swelling, inflammation of thyroid from infections or immune issues. Medicines like lithium or amiodarone, I don't know, can slow thyroid. Rare causes, iodine deficiency. Apparently that's a rare cause. Pituitary gland problems, birth defects, pregnancy, hormonal shifts can trigger it. So there you go. Cabbage contains goitrogens that can block the thyroid gland's ability to absorb iodine. So theoretically, eating an extreme, unrealistic, those were Google's AI's words, an extreme, unrealistic amount of raw cabbage can cause hypothyroidism. You would need to consume multiple kilograms of raw cabbage every single day for an extended period to trigger this condition.
Eat a balanced diet.
So, having said that, there is a documented, or has been, a documented clinical case. A woman developed severe hypothyroidism after eating roughly 1.5 kilograms, that's about 3 pounds of raw bok choy daily for months. So she managed to give herself hypothyroidism that way. Adequate iodine neutralizes the negative impacts of goitrogens by overriding the chemical blockades they create in your thyroid gland. High iodine availability outcompetes goitrogens. Top iodine sources: seaweed, kelp and nori, seafood, dairy, and iodized salt. And I asked about Himalayan pink salt because I use it to make my red ruby kraut. Tastes so good in there. It doesn't contain enough iodine. So and so then I asked about sea salt because I was saying, okay, well, seafood, seaweed, no, it doesn't contain enough iodine either. So there you go.
By itself. Eat a balanced diet.
Yeah, but anyway, there you go. That's what I had to say about that. So James wanted to say something about, he wanted to point out with this, with her talking about the kelp and the broccoli and the cabbage and stuff, that a person could, it's like, sure, it's unhealthy for some people to eat certain things, or eat a lot of certain things or whatever, or probably it's unhealthy for everyone to eat a lot of whatever, one thing. But James wanted to say, you know, there's been cases of people, like, say, drinking too much water and dying from drinking too much water. But to tell people that, oh, well, since some people have died by drinking water, stop drinking water, that'd be a bad idea, right? So that's all James really wanted to say about that, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I don't really have any more to say about that.
Hydrate sensibly.
Yeah.
Please don't avoid water.
Water's good. So anyway, but James is going to talk about the fight for Yemen now. So, boop. Here it is.
Thanks. In the fall of 2014, President Obama pointed to Yemen as a model for the U.S.'s counterterrorism strategy. 6 months later, in the spring of 2015, the country is being torn apart in a violent sectarian conflict led by an anti-American rebel movement, the Houthis.
So the disc is not very long. James watched it twice. It's from 2015.
Yeah, the Houthis are still a problem. They're threatening to block up the Red Sea the way that they are allied with the Iranians. They are fellow Shiites with the Iranians, the majority of Iranians. They're absolute scumbags, the Houthis. I suppose there are certain members of the ethnicity that are okay, but the people that are in control of that, and the people who are from that ethnicity that are serving as foot soldiers for this scumbag movement, well, they're scumbags. So, from what I can tell, is they were fighting, the Americans were, with their Yemeni allies. They were fighting Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Yemen. And what happened was the Houthis, who are the Al-Qaeda and ISIS, are Sunni. I guess the majority of people in Yemen are Sunni. The Houthis took advantage of the weakness caused by this civil war, the Yemenis versus the Al-Qaeda and ISIS, to take over the capital of Yemen, take over substantial portions of Yemen. No business being there. There seems to have been a follow-up series to this. Being American is not the original sin. Yeah? Being white is not the original sin. Being a capitalist is not the original sin. Being even a colonial power was not the original sin. At least a European colonial power. There were colonial powers. There were Assyrian colonies. They date them to maybe 1800 BC. That's a little bit suspect dating. 1600 BC, 1700 BC. In the middle of Turkey, Assyria is the northern part of Iraq. So they had colonies. They actually had little enclaves. I think one they call Karam Kanish. Karam, I think, technically means something like dock or something like that, port, harbor. More on a river. Well, I think it eventually came to mean trading post or something like that. Because I don't know if Karen Kenish was in much of a river. Hallis River, I don't think it's on the Hallis River coastline. They had, this was in the middle of Turkey, before the Hittites took over from what we can tell, but the Assyrians had their own laws there, in the middle, in their own enclave there, foreign enclave there. This sort of stuff is as old as the hills. It wasn't invented by Europeans starting 1492 in the New World. This is like almost 4,000 years ago, talking about the Karen Canyon. The first intercontinental empire, as far as I can tell, aside from, well, like documented, was carried out by the Akkadians. That's not fiddle music and maple sugar pies and all that sort of stuff. The Akkadian, Akkad, the capital of the Akkadian Empire, was very close to present-day Baghdad. A lot of people think it was actually located under present-day Baghdad. Their dating system is so wrong, because it's based on the Egyptian dating system, that they haven't been able to find it. It was basically like where you've got tells and stuff like that, which are like layer cake kind of ruin mounds, where you've got settlement after settlement in order of existence, higher and higher. The more recent, the higher. The place where it actually is, it was called by these Sumerians Kidnan. Akkad is a Akkadian word. The Assyrians called it, or the Sumerians, they had a language isolate. So far as we know, we don't know what, if any, languages it's related to. Probably none. At least in existence nowadays. And they call none. I'm not sure what it means. One guy who's actually studied, he'd done ancient Near Eastern studies, was saying it means in. I haven't been able to find that. So in, kid, K-I-D, no. I don't know what the nun means. There's lots of things that are inexplicable about the cuneiform writing system and stuff like that, but it definitely has a K sound and a D sound. Akkad has a double K sound and a D sound. Why would it have a double K? Well, it's a different language. That's just the way languages work. Get used to it. And it's presently called by its Arabic name, Jemdet Nats or something like that. Jamdat Nats. Find different kind of transliterations for the Arabic. So, yeah, they just, because dating system, the archaeology in the Middle East, Greece, all the way over into India is off, because it's based on the Egyptian dating system, which is off for the early part of Egyptian history by perhaps 900 years. I'm not kidding. Later on, there's misdating by 480 years, but this is craziness introduced by a guy called Flinders Petrie, and people misstyle him as Sir Flinders Petrie. Anyway, history doesn't begin with European colonialism. History, the original crime was not being a European colonialist. There were huge problems in the Middle East even before the Muslims moved in. There was all sorts of killing. I'm working my way slowly, but pretty surely through the early Syrian royal annals. There are records of buildings and so on and so forth, but there's a lot of, for ancient history, they've got up to, I suppose, Greek times. They've got better records, or maybe even Roman times, better records of their campaigns than anyone else. And it's stunning what they were doing, like ethnic cleansing, war crimes, crimes against humanity outside of ethnic cleansing, like killing soldiers who've surrendered, maiming soldiers who surrendered, killing, they're described as young men and young women, presumably maybe adolescent kids. They would not combatants or stuff like that, like doing various horrible things to them, so on and so forth. This is starting with Asher Nasrallah at the very least, and what are his dates? Something like 1890 to 1860, 1859, I believe. 890 maybe to 1880 something or other to 1859. Long time ago. They were doing this sort of stuff, behaving very much like Saddam Hussein or Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin, so on and so forth. This is, you look at the problems in Yemen. They're all Muslim now, but some of them are Sunni, some of them are Shia. Shiism is not a Western invention designed to divide the Muslim world. It developed very early on in the history of Islam. I believe it was before when was Islam invented? 610 AD, and by 700 AD, less than 100 years later, they'd already come up with their fundamental split. It's a long time ago, and it's playing itself in Yemen. The terrorism that's been very popular in the Muslim world is a result of actually decolonization. Decolonization, not colonization. Decolonization. It has nothing to do with so-called American imperialism. The Americans practiced imperialism for about half a century in the Philippines. I guess you could say they're kind of practicing it in Puerto Rico. No, is that what it's called? Yeah, Puerto Rico. And I guess they kind of practiced a little bit in Cuba and stuff like that. It's mainly the mafia doing this, the skunkiness. But where they really practiced imperialism was in the continental United States, even up into Alaska. Okay, and they started doing Alaska just a little bit before my granddad was born, 15 years before. I think they acquired Alaska in 1867. My granddad was born in 1882. So this is where American imperialism has taken place, basically in the North American continent. They've had influence everywhere. They actually gave up. Isn't this incredible? All you lefties, you phony lefties out there accusing Americans of imperialism. They got out of the Philippines at the end of World War II, and the commies were taking over Eastern Europe and imperializing countries that had gotten some degree of independence, if not freedom, from the commies under the Nazis, if you can believe it. And of course you won't believe it because you're a bunch of scumbags. But so they're kind of suggesting that the Americans made a schmozzle of Yemen. Yemen, the Muslim world, is a schmozzle. What happened was, before World War II, they were cheering for the Nazis. Nazism was developed in China before it was developed in Italy, or fascism was developed in China before it was developed in Italy, and Nazism was developed in China under Chiang Kai-shek before it was developed in
Germany.
In Germany. Nazism and fascism are not a first world movement exclusively, and I would argue it's actually a second world response to first world development. It's a medieval kind of response. Communism is too. In this book, there's a guy quoted, and it's before, if I'm not mistaken, 1905. So this is before the first Russian Revolution, much less the one in 1917. The guy said, it is the future. It is a future form of medievalism. Prophetic words. So it's medieval. That's what communism is. That's what Nazism is. It's actually pre-medieval. But yeah, it's just warlords taking over and doing what warlords do, except on an industrial scale. Huge amounts of killing. So Yemen It's typical journalism, this sort of thing. That's why it was second in the list. You can see they're going around there. She gets tight with the Houthis. I don't know how tight, but she's going around getting all of their propaganda. Oh, we're all for peace, all that sort of stuff. And guys have got they're shouldering machine guns. They're okay. Well, that's kind of like peace at the end of a barrel of a gun or whatever. It can be done, but it's got to be done by people who actually believe in peace. And you know what peace is when it comes to politics? It's democracy. When people don't believe in democracy and they're using guns to induce peace, it is only in peace until the people who have the guns trained on them get guns trained back on those people who had the whip hand or the gun hand or whatever. And it's not peace. It's not a formula for peace. As I was saying yesterday, all you dumb gluteus maximus left-wingers, claiming you're left-wingers, they don't believe in democracy, but you really believe in anti-socialism and you're anti-democratic, not even non-democratic. You going around saying peace can't be brought in by violence. Yeah, well, look at Germany after World War II. An incredibly violent society. Look at Japan after World War II. I know it probably is politically incorrect to say it, but they were as violent, if not more violent, as the Germans. And within 6 years of American dictatorship, both countries, apparently from 45 to 51, they were able to pacify those people. And, I used that. Those people. But I used them about Germans too. Huh? Yeah. So don't witch hunt me. Or do. You really can't do much harm to me until you actually get the whip hand, as you've done in the Soviet Union and in China and stuff like that. And then I guess my life's in danger. I don't have a job that you can rip away from me. But clueless. You guys are clueless. That's 3 syllables. Clueless about politics, about class, about sociology, about economics. You just have no clue at all. Understand? I'm not a big fan of capitalism, but it actually semi-works. You look at the record. You look at communism. It's stunning. Yeah. Like, share and share alike, except if you're a party member. But all that happens under communism is you share poverty. Really. Share poverty. Goes nowhere. It's medievalism. Basically, in the introduction, they talk about it's a different kind of medievalism in most of the places where it's been introduced, communism. And because it's actually, who's leading it is, they call themselves a vanguard of the revolution. It's really the rear guard in the sense of the backside guard. But it's the intelligentsia. And traditionally in Russian society,